Oh, my camera's all messed up. Hang on. Let's try that again. What's up, creatives? It's Sam here. Today we are going to do our first tutorial video, actually. We're going to do a simple little scene. I'm going to try not to get carried away, but I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so we're going to start on a plain white canvas. We're going to start with the sunset. You can really pick any main focus color out of the sunset that you prefer. I prefer pink, so pink is going to be my main color in my sunset. But as always with sunset, we start with our darkest blue at the top. I am using ultramarine and mixing it with a little lake blue because I don't like just using the color as is. I like to blend a little bit. So for this, we're just going to start brushing across the top here with a little bit of our lake blue and ultramarine. And a flat brush is best for this. I will never judge anyone for their brush of choice, and you really don't need a huge variety in brushes because it's all in the stroke and the artist and you don't need fancy brushes to make fancy art. Ask any real artist and they'll tell you the same. So I'm going to get a little bit more of my ultramarine here so I can mix it in with my lake blue. We'll get the top finished off here. I'm going to get a little bit more of that darker blue up here. And the sides of the canvas, you can either let your color spill over on the sides, or you can frame it out. I have an artist friend who prefers his canvas edges black. So whatever feels right to you guys, that is the right thing. I personally like to make it look like the image falls off and with the canvas. Okay, I'm going to clean off my brush just a little bit here because we want our colors to blend. So it doesn't have to be a perfectly clean brush yet. Alright, so we're going to start fading into a purplish color. So I'm going to go with my cobalt blue and mix it again and a little bit of my lake blue so it blends. Oops! Got caught a little bit of my yellow there on the side. Well, that's okay. It is a sunset after all. The colors are a little bit all over the place. We'll go with it. I'm going to rinse off my brush to get some of that excess yellow off the corner there. Pro tip, one I did not clearly do this round. When you lay your colors on your whatever you're using to paint on, whether it be your palette, your wooden palette or a plastic palette or a plate, make sure your colors are spread enough apart that when you blend and mix them, you don't catch a corner of yellow in your blue. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit more cobalt to my palette here. Get a tiny bit more of that lake blue. A little bit more than that. Okay. And eventually in one of these videos, I'll have another camera or maybe better camera adjustments so I can show the mixing of the colors. Because let's be honest, that's like the best part of some of these videos. So if you do want to see that, let me know down in the comments and I will make it my next top priority. I actually kind of like that yellow up there. Adds a little extra depth. Okay, I'm gonna get the rest of the blue off this, spread it out a little bit. All right, I'm going to a more vibrant purple than what we're working with here. So we're using light lilac. Just going to start it a little bit up in the blue that's blending into the white here. And spread it out. Blend it up a little bit. I'm going to get a tiny bit of my light pink here. It blends into the blue just a touch. We have some layers and some depth to this. Okay. Going to get a little bit of my magenta and my light pink on the brush now. I haven't washed my brush yet, so there's still a little bit of purple paint in it, which is what you want when blending. I'm going to get my edge here. Make sure that blends nicely. Doesn't look like an afterthought. Bring the magenta up just a little bit into the blue. Gonna go back in for some of my light pink and a little of that light lavender for over here. So here's where you're going to want to be thinking about how our light is going to be falling. So we're going to be painting a large floating island here and a little one over here. So the way I'm going to have my shadows fall is the setting sun is going to be in this area down here. So our lights are going to come up on this corner of the bottom of our floating mountain and pretty much the full thing on this end. So I want my sky to kind of match that. So our lighter colors and same shades within the same color. Let me try that again. Our lighter shades of our colors are going to be in here. So we have this light pink that goes into this dark pink. And so I might add a little bit more darker blue up here and bring it down. And we're going to just have the lights go into the darkers over here, but not too drastically. We want to make sure it flows. So let me rinse off my brush. Actually, we're going to take a quick pause and I'm going to clean up some of my space here and we'll finish blending this guy. Okay, so now that our brush is all clean, I'm going to blend in a little bit more that dark blue up at the top. I'm still mixing some of that lake blue in here so it's not just a sharp dark blue. Bring it down a little bit. Make sure your brush has a little dampness, a little life to it. Otherwise you're just going to be scraping paint across the canvas. A little bit more of that blue. Ooh, I like that. All right, going back to my purple, my lavender purple. Mixing some of that blue into it. nice even brush strokes here. Mix a little bit more of that blue. Okay. So moving back down, we're going to rinse off any bits of blue off of our brush here. And dry it off just a touch. Okay. Still working in pink. Like I said, pink's my main focus here. If your favorite color is purple or blue or yellow, you can move the sky up or down to fit in your focus color. Pink is gonna be the middle of the canvas for me, so it draws your attention there. If purple was your focus, you'd have more blue. You'd be darker blue, lighter purple, and then you wouldn't have some of the bright yellow that we're going to put in down here. You would almost finish off at like an orange or a salmon. If yellow is your main focus, you would really want to start with the light blue, going into purple, pink, your yellow, then you'd fade into your orange. If you're bringing yellow higher, you can play with where orange falls in the sunset a little bit. But for this piece, pink is the color that we're leaning heavily on. So let me get a little bit more pink on here. I don't think I told you what color pinks I'm using. I'm using light pink and light magenta are the names of these two. So I'm going to blend my pink and magenta together, leaning a little bit more on the magenta just since we're closer to purple. We don't want to get too heavy in the light pink just yet, not until we're ready to fade into our next color. Let me bring this back over. Pick up some more of that paint. Can bring in a little bit of that light just in some strips and streaks up here. Okay, I'm gonna lean more into the lighter pink now as I go another layer down. And you can bring it up as you go, but just blends smoothly. I'm actually going to wipe off some of that excess paint here on my brush and pick up a little bit of our lavender and smooth out some of that pink there. I think we took a little long, so it started to dry. I still want to leave a little pink on my brush. Pick up some of that lavender. Just smooth it out up here. So there's no sharp lines. I want it to smoothly blend, and you can bring that purple down just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Put in a little bit more pink. Some of that purple still on my brush. Okay. And forget my sides here. Excess paint on the edge. There, we don't want that. Okay. So let's rinse off our brush. These next couple colors we don't really want blending too heavily because they'll mix and change the color. But it's coming together. I like it. Okay. So the colors that should be on your palette now is gold. Hang on, let me get some of that. I think I need a little bit more gold. You should have gold, peach, and yellow. Let me get a little bit more gold on my palette here. Okay. If you don't have the colors that you're liking, you can always mix them with white or black or darker shades of the color you're looking for to get your color. So if you don't have peach, you can mix a little light pink with it or a little white with your yellow or orange, depending on the shade you want. Let me just show you here. So I'm using an old wooden palette, so it's heavily used here. So pay no attention to the greens and the black you see in the corner. But here is my gold, peach, and bright yellow. We're going to start adding them to the canvas here. Let me just make sure my brush is really clean. We don't want any purple or pink hanging around. Okay. So we're gonna start with our peach, actually. You can mix it with your gold. I'm actually gonna add just a tiny little bit of that bright yellow into this. So gold, peach, and a touch of yellow. We're just gonna start putting that in here. A little bit more on my brush. Should have this strong golden color. And you can blend that up just ever so slightly up into your pink. Your pink should be a little bit more dry now, so it won't mix too heavily. It'll just blend a little bit. A little bit more. Okay. Okay, and you don't need too thick of a layer in here. I'm just gonna kind of smooth this out a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna get a little bit more peach on my palette here. Where'd my peach go? Oh, I put it away. I like to keep whatever paints I'm working with up front on my desk. That way I don't forget which color I'm using or lose the color I'm working with in case I need a little bit more. Alright, so grab a tiny bit of that yellow with some peach. Which is almost going to look like some of that pink comes back down. My side here. Okay, now we're going to focus on finishing most of this in yellow. So mixing some of my yellow with peach, mostly yellow then peach at this point. In fact, let me get a little bit more yellow on here. little peach. I may throw a touch of that light pink on here actually. Just to give me a little bit more of my main color. Okay. I'm going to just grab some pink on my brush. My brush still has some yellow on it. We haven't rinsed it yet. Just going to throw a little bit in this corner here. That's going to be brighter. Let me grab some more yellow. I'll just make this not look so straightforward, so linear. Let me grab some of that peach. I'm going to throw it over here. A nice block of color. More of that yellow. This is where you can really start playing with where your colors are falling. Grab some more of that peach and yellow. Should have brought my pink down a little bit more. I still can. Let me add more yellow over here. Get a little bit over here. Okay. Peach. I'm going to throw some light pink up here. Just because I want a little more pink in this. Okay. I'm going to rinse off my paintbrush now. Little full. Okay. Dry it off. I'm going to add a little magenta to my palette. I think I need a little bit more. A little light pink. Touch more peach. And I think we're good on gold. Let me get some more of that yellow. Okay. Ooh. Look how these colors are kind of like sitting so nicely here. Look at that fade. Okay. Sorry, I'm obsessed. Okay, going in with my magenta and a touch of that light pink. Just going to smooth out this line. Just ever so lightly. Then we can get a little bit more magenta in here. I'm going to pull it a little more over here since this is our darker side. I want to make sure we're giving this side a little bit more darkness. Not a lot. We don't want to make it look like the sun doesn't exist only on half the planet. But we do want to make sure that we know the sun is over there. So let's get some of this pink mixed in with our, or peach mixed in with our magenta and light pink. Let's put it right here in the middle. Spread it out a little. Okay. Let's clean off our brush. And let's take that yellow and finish off the rest of our holes. Okay. Actually, I need to clean out my water now because getting a little bit of that blue in there from earlier. Okay, quick break. Be right back. So I usually like to recommend you rinse out your cup of water, depending on the size, honestly. After every big color change. You don't have to. It does make the cleanup process faster, and it does help when you're using a smaller cup and some of that excess paint off your brush puddles at the bottom of your cup. And when you rinse off your brush, then you pick up that little extra. So just a baby tip. Small cup, rinse often. Small to medium cup, rinse often. I got into a habit of rinsing the cup off after every color, but when I get consumed in a project, like I am now, I tend to forget. Distractions happen. I really like the way this color is blending into the other colors. Okay, we're going to want to make sure most of the bottom of the canvas is that bright medium yellow, because this is where our sun is. So makes most sense that here is yellow. Okay. Lightly, just ever so lightly, you can bring your brush up the canvas with that yellow still on it. That was a little bit too much. Don't press too hard or you'll leave a bad streak, but you can bring it up just ever so slightly so there's hints of the color higher in the sky, especially on this side since we're having the sun on this side. Okay. I personally think that's good. I like that. Let me check my sides here. I'm gonna make sure we're all covered. Don't want anything hanging off. I still need to paint the bottom, but I usually do that last. Missed a little bit here. Let me get this. Okay. All right. Let's clean up while we let that dry, and then we can start on the fun stuff. So unfortunately my audio got messed up for this portion. So we're just going to do a quick voiceover for this small set. We're going to use the round brush for this part, and we're going to start working on the stars. So we're just going to add a couple little dots here and there. And I'm sorry if you can hear my air conditioner in the back. It's a little loud. But we're going to take that white and start adding little specks here and there. You can use other colors for your stars than just white. I know I've used pink or blue or purple or yellow occasionally. On this piece I'm just using that white color we had earlier. Okay, so now we're going to take our feather brush here and just get a little bit of that white on there. I can't remember what I was talking about originally. But essentially we're just going to put some white on this brush, the feather brush. Make sure you get not too much on there, otherwise it's going to leave lots of streaks, but we're basically just going to rub our fingers across the top and kind of flick the paint at the canvas so it just puts little splatter stars on there. I'm going to put my hand up behind the canvas while I'm flicking the paint because I have a lot of artwork on the wall behind me and I don't want to just splat a little extra in the background. So I'm just gonna, you can use a piece of paper, or if you don't have anything in the background, you could just kind of splash that paint on there. You shouldn't worry too much about it hitting the wall. but I'm just going to hold my hand there to make sure I don't hit some of the canvas because we're awfully close to the wall. To make sure you get an even layer of paint on the brush, you can actually use your finger to spread that paint out evenly. That way you don't get like streaks when you splatter the brush. Just like that. Just make sure you get a nice even layer across the top of the sky. Okay, and then once you get it to how you like it, we can add a little bit more details in here. So we're going back to the round brush and we're just going to add a couple little deeper stars, some brighter stars. Feel free to add some shooting stars or some sparkling stars. I'm going to add a couple sparkling stars in here once I finish a couple of my brighter stars. And then feel free to bring it out a little bit into your light sky. Just kind of expand that almost galaxy feel here. We're still using the lighter white for our stars. Feel free to add as many or as few stars as you like. There's no wrong decision here. I tend to get carried away with my stars, so if you're following along with me, you'll probably have more than you expect. But I'm going to go ahead and add some detail up into this top star. We're going to make it a little brighter, bring it down a little bit, bring it across, kind of give it a sparkling feel. Okay, now let's head over to this other star. We're going to make it a little bit bigger and brighter than the first one. Gonna bring it down and up and to the side. Give it that sparkling feel. You're almost painting a cross with an X through the center. Okay, we're going to switch over to our floating islands now. We're going to have a larger one to center left and a smaller one off to the right. We're going to use our 3/4 inch angle brush, and we're just going to start with a nice, fine, quick line here before we start bringing it down. Okay, so my mic actually did die, so you missed about 20 seconds of that, and I don't remember what I was talking about. But let's move on. Let's go back into where we sort of left off. Refresher. I'm just going to remind myself what I'm doing. Burnt amber, burnt sienna, and then milky white are our colors. Okay. So we're going to have our large floating island here, our small floating island here. I'm mixing a little bit of that light brown with the dark as I come down and kind of form what I'm doing here. And you can make this as jagged or as smooth as you want. I'll rip off a little bit of my excess paint. I'm still deciding how I want this to go. Pull it down a touch. There we go. I'll probably bring some other stuff out here, but we'll get to that in a minute. Little island. Let me grab a smaller angle brush, actually. I don't want to get too carried away here. Let's go with this one. Okay, go ahead and get it wet in your cup. Dry it off just a touch. We don't want dry, sharp bristles here. Okay. And the closer that you hold at your brush, like this, the more control you have. The further back you go, the lighter, looser, fluffier strokes you'll have. So I'm going to just maintain decent control here by holding it up at the very end. Okay, I kind of like that. So I'm going to hang on to the small brush, and it is a 3/8 angle brush for those who are keeping detail. I'm just going to fill in the island a little bit with this mixed color here. We're going to do a couple layers. So we'll just start with a nice single color in here to fill out our space. And you can make these as big or as small as you want. You do not have to follow exactly what I'm doing. Whatever feels right to you. And take that darker color actually back up for up here, because I really want to make sure I get my shadows pretty right. May speed this part up a little bit. You probably don't care about watching me paint very inside the line. Going back to my lighter color, mixing it in just a tiny bit of the dark color. This is just our base. Our rock is not going to look like this when we're finished. So don't worry about streaks or lines or it not being completely filled in. We just want to make sure that the pink and the yellow in the background is not the only color showing. We just want to kind of get a little bit filled in here so when we start adding our details, it'll be a lot smoother. Okay. Now, I'm going to rinse off the brush. So you can either use the same brush or you can get a smaller, finer detail brush because we're going to add some roots and details to our mountain here. We kind of want our mountain to look like it just got pulled out of the ground. So let me see. Let's go with I'm going to use that small angle brush that we were using and that small round brush from earlier. Now with both brushes rinsed off and cleaned off, we can go into our, let's start with the big one first. So I'm going to take the dark and pick up a tiny bit of that milky white, blend those two colors together ever so slightly. Lean more into the darker brown than the white. Okay. Then we can just kind of bring in some highlights over here. Or I guess technically low light. Remember, your light's coming up in this direction, so this side's going to be lighter. Your darker colors are going to be from here, fading down. So as you go more over to the left, you can pick up some more of that dark brown. Darken it up a bit. And this little guy, I'm going to switch to my smaller brush and pick up only that dark amber, burnt amber. Fill in little one, give it a little bit more detail. I definitely want it to look like it's behind, so I'm actually going to get a tiny bit of, let's see, go with charcoal. So just pick up the tiniest bit of charcoal on your brush with the brown still on it. We're just going to put in a couple little lines in here. Maybe a couple in here as well. I also want it to look like the rock, so I'm going to bring some texture. So this is our front. Okay. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's pick up that lighter brown. We're going to come in here and clean up our line a little bit. And you can make the bottom sharp, or you can make it round, whichever you prefer. I switched back to the round brush. I haven't rinsed it off yet, so there's just a little bit of that dark brown and some black on it. Okay. Back to the angle brush. I'm going to pick up some of that lighter brown and fill it in here. You want to make sure whatever the lightest color is we're going to use, it's on the edges that the sun is going to be on. So this doesn't necessarily need it on the other side, but it does on this side. Pick up some of that dark brown, fill in the shadowy side here. I'm going to pick up some of that light brown and a tiny bit of the milky white. Blend those two colors together. And now I'm going to kind of focus on some of my edges here that are going to be most in sun contact. A couple highlights in here, maybe a tiny bit up. I'm going to go on the other side of this dark line so we know that the side sticks out just a touch. Not enough paint on the brush here. Hang on. There we go. Okay. I'm going to pick up some of that dark. Kind of blend the brush in a little bit because you still have a little bit of that lighter color in the brush. Going to give it some highlights and lowlights around here. Give it a little texture. If you notice, I'm holding the brush a little bit further back, letting the paint and the brush kind of do its work. A lot of times with painting, you're just letting it flow. You don't have to worry about mistakes or super serious details. Just do what feels right. Okay, I picked up a little black. I'm going to fill in this side. Give it a little bit of depth and texture. I'm going to do a tiny bit up here. And then maybe a tiny bit in the crack. This crack as well. Okay. Kind of like that for now. We can come back to it if we want. Actually, let's not rinse off our brush yet. Let's keep with that dark colors inside. Move into the little one here. This one can be a little less detailed with because it's further off. Picking up that lighter color. Actually might make this a little bit more pointy in the other direction. Okay, I'm going to rinse off both my brushes now. And the other brush. Alright. Try this off a little bit. I guess I need a little bit more burnt amber on my palette. I'm going to get a tiny bit more of that. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to pick up the lighter color. Okay, then we can go back to that burnt amber. Do anything that should be darker. Have some shadow. And remember, the light is directly under it now. So most of your shadows are going to be at the top. I'm going to switch back to my angle brush so I get a fine line here. So that darker burnt amber. Okay. I'm going to switch to my round brush, pick up a little black. Make sure it's definitely darker up here. I'm going to blend those black stripes in with some dark burnt amber. Okay, now I'm going to mix the lighter brown, the burnt sienna with our milky white. This is going to be the lightest color of brown we've mixed so far. We're just going to ever so lightly highlight the bottom here. Add a couple details up here. And right here. Okay. I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of the burnt amber with the light still on my brush. And we're just going to blend these colors together so there's no drastically sharp lines. I'm going to take my round brush and pick up a little bit of that lighter color and just get the tip of this. I feel like it should be a little lighter. Okay. Oops. And that's why you rinse off your darker colors when you switch to a lighter color. But that's okay. We'll blend it in a little bit. I actually like that. Okay. So if you feel free to add a little extra detail if you want. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it. I'm going to rinse off my brushes again. Let me check the water. We should probably go ahead and replace the water. So, quick pause. I'm going to clean up my station. Then we can start doing the roots and the drippy down. All right. Now that we have some clean water here and clean brushes, we can start getting wild. And I know I promised that I would try and not get carried away at the beginning of this video. I make no guarantees now. So, if you haven't already, go ahead and put a little bit more burnt amber and burnt sienna, a little bit more of your black on the canvas. Am I gonna use the milky white? You know, let's add a little more milky white just in case. Okay. So we're just gonna work on roots right now. We don't need to add any colors to it yet. We're eventually gonna add some leaves and stuff, but right now let's just focus on some roots that are hanging down from our little islands. So I'm gonna pick up the burnt sienna, our lighter brown, and you know what, let's go with a little bit of that milky white, why not? Okay. Get a little bit on your round brush. If you have a detailed brush, this is when you're going to want to use it, otherwise the round brush does fine. I personally like the round brush. Maybe eventually I'll warm up to a detailed brush more, but I like the round brush. Okay. Let's see, let's start with the little one. We're just gonna send off some offshoots, little swooshes. This is where you can get creative and a little carried away. So we're gonna start with our lightest color. So this is the lighter brown with some of that milky white mixed in. Make sure your branches touch all the way to your island. You don't want it to look like it's an afterthought. You definitely want to flow. I need a little bit more. Brush needs to be a little bit more damp here. If you are using a round brush and not a detailed brush, you only want the tiniest bit of paint at the end of your brush. And you want to make sure it stays a little bit damper because finer lines take a little bit more work with this brush, but they turn out so well. Worth it if you have the patience for it. So whatever feels right. Can you actually see this? Should I zoom in a little bit more? Let me come in a little bit more. Okay. I will probably have to move again, but ooh, that angle looks weird. Let me kill this light. Is this gonna help us at all? We're gonna go with it. This way you can actually see it a little bit better. Okay. Still using our lighter color. We're just gonna have it be extra droopy over here. Whatever feels right. You don't have to copy exactly. You can if you want. I will not judge. But go ahead and just start adding little branches anywhere and everywhere you feel like should be. So again, we're following the sky here. So lighter colors are going to be at the ends. The darker colors are going to be up. The only light I'm going to add to this side is going to be probably right here and right here. The rest of them will be darker roots. So if I'm going too slow for you and you start getting ahead, that is totally fine. But there are some details for you just in case. Okay. I need a little bit more here. Darken this up just a touch. I'm going to get a tiny bit more dampness on my brush, pick up a little bit more paint. Why do I feel like this one? Just a little. I think that's a little better. Let's bring this swoosh out a touch more too. Okay. I'm going to pick up my next shade up, which, since I blended this color with the milky, it would be the burnt sienna. Let me just bring my brush to a little bit of a point again. So actually, pro tip with the round brushes, if you're using as a detailed brush, when you put it in the paint and you twist it ever so slightly while you're picking it up, it'll give you a little bit more, can you see that? You can't really see that. Well, focus. It's not going to focus, but it gives it more of a point versus being that flat round edge. Okay. I should have started with that one so I don't put my hand in my paint. It's fine. I'm going to bring this one down more like this. And you can make these as short or as long as you want. Whatever you prefer. You want to stay consistent with your thickness though. So, yeah, this one's a little thicker. I need to come down here and thicken these ones up. The main root, your little offshoots can be any size you want, but these little offshoots should all be at least closer to the same. Okay, a little bit better. I'm gonna add, I feel like I need to add something else to this one. So if I just do this. Yeah. Okay, I'm rinsing off my brush. Thinking I need to add a little something right here. Don't worry about the top yet, because we're gonna have foliage falling over. You can throw some branches up there, but we'll probably cover it with foliage later. Unless you don't want to, and then it's up to you. Remember, this is your masterpiece. So if you have a creative thought that takes it in a very different direction, please absolutely do that. Okay, I'm going to stop touching because I like it, and if I keep touching it, I'm probably going to just change the whole thing. So we're going to move back a little bit. Okay, I can probably turn this light back on. That's still helpful. That's it. Okay. Let's see. So we're going to start. We're not going to mix the whiter color into our brown this time. We're going to take a good amount of the light sienna, and just a touch, or burnt sienna, and a touch of the burnt amber. Because we want it mostly light. And let me bring this brush to a point a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now I don't want to copy the other one too much, so let's have this one spin off this way. This one should be a little thicker. This one I might get carried away, huh? Forewarning. But that is okay. I literally have no plan for how these branches go. So don't worry about getting lost. Just do what feels right or what looks right. I literally didn't plan on putting this one here, but I kind of like it now. You can be a little lighter. I'm going to have this one spin around. A little more there. Okay. Baby one come off here. Yeah. Okay. I like that. I might come back for that one, but let's keep going. So I'm going to pick up some of that burnt amber, that darker brown, and mix it in with our mixed color already to darken it up. And we're going to go to this one here. I'm going to add a little something in this crack here. Okay, I'm going to rinse off my brush again. Sorry, I have allergies. Totally ignore that. Been trying this whole video to not sneeze right now. Okay, we're going to go into our burnt sienna, our lighter brown now, and kind of fill in some of these spots, a little highlight closer to the sun setting. Oop, that was a little too much. Tiny bit. Okay. Bring some more in here. I may be getting carried away. Let's pick up some of our burnt sienna now in the same breath. Color blend. Bring it up. Looks like it flows a little better. I don't know why I whisper when I paint. That's probably not helpful. Okay, let's blend a little. Let's get a little of that lighter brown in here. Don't want our branches to look black after all. It'd be too dark. Okay, some of these lightly transparent ones be a little lighter, so it looks like they're coming through from the back of the island, which we can do here too. Oops, a little thick. Let me smooth that. Okay. And now other side, I'm gonna adjust you a little bit so I can come back around. I might move that light, honestly. It's just putting a weird glare on the canvas. Let me know down in the comments if I should like not have the light directly behind, like this light specifically. On, off. Let me know if you prefer it on or off, or if I should just adjust it. When the sun is out, it brings in enough light where I usually keep that one off. But if it's raining like it is today, I have to have both lights on in the studio. So let me know if that light is even worth it. I might play with it later and adjust it. Okay, so let's go back in here. I'm gonna set my palette on the desk here so I can kind of get a good angle. I'm gonna start at the top this time. I'm using the darker brown. Let me pick up just a touch more. Okay. I'm gonna try to stay a little a little less crazy. I don't know. I lost my train of thought as I was talking. Do a tiny. Okay, I'm gonna stop. We're gonna leave it like that, and then we'll add a little bit more to the outsides here. Again, the darker color. I'm gonna try not to block the view here. You know what? I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it. We have our extra things on that side, so it's extra. Okay, I like it. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna stop touching. Now let's see. All right, let me. Okay, so we're gonna rinse off all of our colors, rinse off all of our brushes, and we're going to add. We're gonna add a deep green, emerald green, chrome green, light green, and medium yellow to our palette here. Actually, we're gonna add a tree, so let's also get our raw amber brown. I'm gonna put it over here by my greens, and then we don't want just that only color brown in our tree, so let's also go with let's go with the burnt amber. In which case we'll need to add another off-white color, so let's go with dark titanium white. Oops, that was a little bit too much. That's okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with our tree. Our little afterthought tree here. So we're gonna do an oak tree of sorts. So go ahead and grab a brush. I'm using another round brush, size 8. You can use a flat brush. You can use an angle brush. You can really use any brush for trees, just whatever feels right and fits how you paint. I used to use angle brushes, but I have this new round brush that I really like. I've been using it a lot lately. So what we're going to do is after you pick your brush, we're going to mix those two browns together. And I'm going to lean more onto the lighter side of the browns. So more of the burnt amber than the dark amber. Apparently, most of my browns are ambers. I didn't realize I had that many colors of amber. Okay, so let's see. Let's put our tree off to the side here. Go ahead and decide where your tree is going to go, and then go ahead and stand it up. You don't have to worry about branches for an oak tree because we're going to cover the majority of it. Go ahead and build your trunk. Oaks usually have pretty strong trunks. I'm going to spread them out a little bit. They usually have a pretty wide base too. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to get a little bit more of the darker brown on my brush. Mix it in with a little bit of that other color we mixed. And I'm going to move over to our small island over here. I'm actually going to center this tree. Leaning a little bit more to the left, but mostly center. I'm actually going to leave it just like that. Alrighty. So let's rinse off our brush. go ahead and finish building our tree, go ahead and take either your small detailed brush or small round brush, and let's mix some of that dark titanium white with either of the brown colors, whichever you prefer. I'm going with a tiny bit of the light and a good amount of the darker. I want smooth mix. I want a little bit of that redness from the first brown. I definitely don't want it too far off in shades from our actual tree. My mixed color looks like this one here. Okay, so we're just going to bring in some high and low lights here in our tree. So our lighter color is going to be a little bit more towards the top because all of this is going to cast a shadow onto our tree because the sun is underneath. So most of our light is going to be middle to top for this tree. That's good. I'm going to pick up some of our darker color. Add some shadow. The leaves themselves are not going to cast a shadow on this side. They'll actually have lighter leaves underneath. So the way you're usually used to painting shadows in trees, it's quite different from floating island paintings, because your sun is underneath you, not above you. Taking the lighter brown now and just blending it in ever so slightly into some of our tree here. Gonna mix it with our light color. Move it out so there's no sharp lines. There we go. Okay, same with our tree over here. Just gonna repeat the same process, starting with the dark color because that's what we have on our brush. And then we'll rinse and finish. Our darkness is going to be up here on the bottom of the tree. It's closest to the ground, which is covered by the shadow. Okay, let's rinse off our brush and get the lighter part. I actually need to mix that color a little bit more again. If you're getting too much red from the burnt amber, just add a little bit more of that darker brown. Okay. I think that's going to be good here. As I keep adding. This is my problem. I can never quit touching. I'm working on it. Okay. So let's finish off the tree. I need to add some leaves now. All right. We're going to take the mop brush. So go ahead and get it wet. And wring it out. Well, don't wring it out, but you know what I mean. Dry it off a bit. Okay. We're going to pick up our darkest color first. I'm using a 3/4 mop brush, by the way. Yeah, start with the darkest color. Go ahead and get that deep dark green in there. And I don't want to cover my star too much, so I'm actually going to make the top of the tree here. And I'll make the bottom of my tree here. Okay. So go ahead, start making your tree. Oak trees usually have this broad shape here. You can add a little extra something over here to give the illusion that there's an extra branch hanging out, painting that way. That's the gist of it. So now we're going to take the next green over. Don't rinse off your brush. We're blending these two colors with what's left in your brush and the new color. And we're just gonna dab a little bit more at the bottom and around the edges. Tiny bit in the center. You don't want to cover up too much of that dark green. Alright, next green over. Again, we're not rinsing our brush. We're blending the colors through. This green is going to be our main highlight color. So pay attention to where your sun is. Majority of it is over here. We'll fill it in right here. We're going to get a little bit down here. And then probably wherever our tree changes shape, get a little bit of that form in there. Okay, you rinse off the brush now when you're happy with the way your tree looks. We're not done with it though, so don't worry. I'm going to need to rinse out my water here soon. We'll give it a minute. We'll finish this tree first. Okay, go ahead and take your feather brush. And we're going to pick up that lightest green on our palette now, that emerald green, that light emerald green. And we're just going to add ever so little to this side. Go ahead, and if you got a little too much, you can kind of tap it in so it smooths itself out. You know, sometimes your finger can be one of the best brushes and tools you have. Add just a tiny bit over here. Just a touch. Tiny bit here. Don't want to get too carried away with it. We may actually want to darken, this spot here. So I'm going to pick up the next green over. Just cover some of that little very light emerald we put there. We don't want it too light in the center here. Center is our darkest point. Center and top is our darkest point. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it alone. Add a little branch offshoot. I feel like I should add a little branch offshoot. You know what? I'm going to leave it. I'm gonna leave it. Let's do the other tree now. Since it's smaller, don't think I'm gonna use my mop brush. So I am kind of a makeup enthusiast. So I have a lot of makeup brushes. I actually think I have more makeup brushes than I do paint brushes. Because I have, like I said earlier, I have like 4 paint brushes that are my favorite and I use them for almost everything. Except for this piece, I've kind of like branched out a little bit more. But, which I'll do in tutorials. I'll show you the quote unquote closer to the right brush. Or I'll at least tell you it while I'm using the brush I want to use. But, to the point I'm trying to make, I took one of my makeup brushes and I'm using it for my painting now. And it's just this little brush. And it does the trick of what a mop brush does, but tiny and perfect. And I don't know if you saw my pumpkin patch video, the time lapse I made a while ago, but I didn't have a brush that was doing what I wanted smoothly and easily because there's like a million pumpkins on it, and so it was taking forever to do it in the details with one of my brushes. And then I was doing my makeup the next day and I saw this brush and I was like, that'll form a perfect pumpkin. And it did, and now it lives here with my paintbrushes. And I haven't used it since. So we're going to do it again with our tree. So we're going to throw a little bit more of that darker emerald color in here. So we used all of it. And let's use our makeup brush, shall we? All right, same thing. I actually might slide you over again so I can get in here a little easier. All right. We don't need to worry about where our top is, but we also want to make our tree smaller than that one so it doesn't look like proportions are wrong. So we'll do, this is the top. We'll make at the bottom. I'm okay with that. We'll fluff it out. See what I'm saying? Look how great this brush is. I love this brush. The makeup brush. Who would have thought? That is not really the shape an oak tree trunk makes. So let's cover it a little bit more. So it looks like it's going more up versus angling. So we got carried away. All right, next color, green. We're just going down the line in our shades here. Copy and paste basically what we did the first time. Gonna add a little lighter color in here. Next color down. Main highlight color. This side should be a little brighter. We're gonna have this side be a little brighter. Maybe right. Okay, again, you can take your finger, smooth that out a little bit, blend it in a little more. Okay, now let's take our beautiful lightest green here, add it in, kind of where we put our other light green, blend that in a bit. If any of you are still hung up on the fact that I use a makeup brush sometimes, you would be surprised some of the weird hacks and stuff I use to paint. And if you want a video on it, let me know. I'll go through the majority of the weird stuff that I use. Work smarter, not harder, right guys? There's creativity in your tools. Okay. Ooh, I like that. Let's add a touch more of this in here. I should have gotten less paint on my brush. Go back to the... Okay, I'm happy with that. I like that a lot, actually. All right, let me bring it back so you can actually see the whole picture again. I don't drop this. Okay. Well, let me rinse off my brushes, and then we can start on the grass. Okay, so with brushes rinsed off, and all of our green's still on the palette, we're gonna take our, let's see, let's start with the big island again. Let's start with, okay, we're gonna go with our chrome green. That's like the middle green on the palette here. We're gonna fill our feather brush with it. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make ever so slightly the grass on the top fall over. Go ahead and add it and pull it down. Add and pull down. And you can go up above it, the mountain, just a touch, so it gives it a little bit more depth. There, that's kind of what I wanted. Gonna add a little bit more to the end here. You can add a little bit more texture up here. Give it some depth. I think I'm going to add a little bit more over here. Doesn't look like it has quite enough over here. Don't want my grass to look like it's floating in the background. After all. Okay. Let's actually bring some of that down a little bit more. Okay. Let's grab one of our detail or round brushes and throw some of this over the side. Same color. It's okay if it's not perfect. All right. So let's grab some of our darker color with our feather brush. Next color up. Oh, I lied to you guys. This is the chrome green. The green I used before was the light green. So we're going to add this more in the middle. Our darker green. So pull it down. Definitely going to put it in there. Okay, so I don't know if any of y'all forgot, but we still have yellow on our palette. So we're going to use that yellow now. Go ahead and grab the slightest, tiny, itty-bittiest amount on your paintbrush. We do not want to overpower with the yellow. But while your green on the ends are still wet, we're going to just blend a teeny tiny bit of the yellow in here. Give it some highlight. Oh, that might be too much yellow on my brush. Hang on. There we go. Feel free to bring it in a little bit if you want. Just the lightest amount of yellow. You can bring it down into some of the grass here in the mountain. in our island. And you can blend it in up here a little bit if you want. And now that we have yellow on our brush, we can actually bring it in right next to our lightest green in the tree. Give a little extra. I'm not going to put any on that side. I feel like there'd be too much shadow. So we'll put it on both sides of this tree. Okay, come back to that tree later. This grass needs a little bit more life. So I'm going to actually take that angle brush, that small angle brush from earlier, and grab our lightest emerald green and mix it with our next lightest color, that light green. So you should have a light emerald green here, medium to light. And then what we're going to do, just add a little bit of life up here. Bring some of it down. Cover this here. Okay. Same brush, I'm going to take our dark, well actually no, let's take that dark emerald and mix it with the chrome. Lean a little bit more into the emerald color, a little darker and brighter. And go ahead and get the middle here. Blend it in a little so that way it kind of smooths out. I'm going to pick up some more of that light green and blend it into some of this darkness in my brush. So that way we can blend over here a little bit. There's no drastically sharp edges. Okay. I'm going to take my feather brush again and pick up a little bit of the light and medium greens. And we're just going to pull down a little bit more. I feel like I want a little bit more here. Cover that. There we go. Okay. You know what? I like it. I'm going to leave it there. Okay. Let's add some life to our roots here. So go ahead and pick a green. I'm going to use the light green and mix it with the chrome, leaning more into the light. You know what? I actually might pick up a little bit of that light emerald instead. We're just going to add like little buds, maybe some moss or some grassy roots here. We're just going to add a little green in here to our roots falling down. Doesn't have to be a lot. Doesn't have to be overbearing. You can just completely cover them if you want. I did in one piece floating island I made. It's kind of cool. I'm just gonna add the tiniest little touches of green there. To me, add a little green in here. Just for like a mossy feel. Oop, that's a little much. I'm gonna get my brush, rinse off my brush, no paint. Blend this in a little bit. There we go. Okay. I kind of like that. Let's move on. She says as she touches it again. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more light green to my palette. A little bit more of that chrome green. I would not have named this color chrome green, to be honest. It's not really a chrome green. But we're going with it. They don't pay me to name these colors anyway, so I ain't gonna complain. Alright, let's finish our other island. So let's go with our light green for the base here. Let's just ever so slightly add our green. Push it up a little. Pull it down. Okay, I'm going to take my round brush, the next shade up. Little just stripes, basically. It looks like wisps of grass. Go into that dark emerald color. Kind of fill in a little bit. Mix it in a little bit so it's not just a deep dark color. Go ahead and blend it into your chrome green a little bit. Okay. Let's grab some of that light green mixed with the chrome. Now let's bring it out here a little bit. And the other side. Great. Okay. So let me rinse off my brush because I think I have too many dark colors on here. I'm not gonna blend too much more up in the middle. So let's pick up some of that lightest green and bring down some swooshes. The other brush is a little big for the pull down here, so we're just going to use the round brush or a detail brush. I'm going to grab that light emerald now and kind of brush it in at the end. You don't have to get super detailed on this one. Again, it's far off, so we don't have to worry too much about having perfect little lines. But go ahead and pick up some of that yellow and a little bit in the end, maybe a touch on top. I'm going to throw a little bit more in the tree so we really know it's there. And then let's go with the lightest green. I'm going to mix it a little bit so that yellow on my brush kind of blends into the green. Let's go ahead and add some life into our branches. Okay. Maybe a bit more of a whoosh over here. Cool. Okay. Touch this up a little bit. Yeah, so now if you see any little touch-ups or details you want to add, go ahead and do that. But I think I'm happy with this piece. So I'm going to take my signing pen and let's sign it. Don't forget to date the bottom. Everybody wants to know when you made it. Okay, I think that's it. So for those wanting to know, these were all the brushes I used on this piece. 8 brushes. Some artists will use up to like 20 to 30 different brushes. I usually use a small handful. I didn't even need to use these 2 different brushes. I could have done just the one. But for those keeping up, these were the brushes that I used. All right. Oop, I almost fell off my chair. Get a little situated here. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today with our first tutorial video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more of it, please, please, please let me know down in the comments so that way I know to make more of them. I lost my train of thought. I can fix this in editing. If there's anything else that you guys want to see, like my art hacks and tips and tricks that I was mentioning earlier, or if you want more time-lapse videos, whether longer or shorter, I've played with both and they're about even on the feedback. So if you have a preference, throw it down in the comments on those videos or this video. That way I know what you guys like and what content I should be making. And yeah, if you enjoyed and want to see more, subscribe, hit that like button, throw some comments below, and we will see you next time. Thank you guys so much.